Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about the federal civil rights charges that the Department of Justice has brought against the 5 officers who have already been accused of a savage beating and killing of Tyre Nichols. So this is one of those, stomach-wrenching, ghastly crimes that we saw back in January. He's coming back from his job at FedEx to his mother's house. Supposedly, one of the officers said he's engaging in reckless driving, but they later found that there was no probable cause. So he's stopped, and everything terrible ensues. He is beaten, tased, pepper sprayed. The actual cause of death, which comes 3 days later, is blunt force trauma. They basically stand him up and just haymaker again and again. Now, this is tied into a kind of controversial practice in the Memphis Police Department, which is already under investigation itself, the department, by the Civil Rights Division. This is a so-called Scorpion Squad, so of officers supposedly who can really, by the way, Tyre Nichols is African American. All 5 officers are, and that's most of the Scorpion Squad is. They're supposedly able to go into crime-ridden areas and really, totally kick ass and take names and be very tough on the toughest crimes. And that's this, innovation supposedly of the Memphis police. There's also supposedly ways in which they are, know the community, and it's not simply the hard ass stuff, but that's basically what it is and why they're under investigation. So these 5 officers now, they're being charged with 2 federal civil rights violations. Basically, one coming from the unspeakably horrible just beating death of a guy who's done nothing. It's as the contrast between what he does and what they do to him almost couldn't be starker. And then also they're totally callous and don't inform medical personnel, refuse to basically get him the aid he needs, and he dies 3 days later. Okay, the Jefferson County, the DA in Memphis has brought second-degree charges against these 5, and they pleaded not guilty, and their trial has not commenced. And now, yesterday, Attorney General Merrick Garland announces that showing how serious the DOJ takes it, the charges, the follow-on charges from the federal government, deprivation of rights under color of law, but it's given that death ensued. And also they're charged with, there's the same kind of monkeying around after to obstruct justice, try to change the report. It's just got every horror detail. They're looking at potentially life imprisonment on the federal charges alone. Now, there's something really interesting here. I've been involved quite a bit back from the Rodney King days in the department's policy about when they'll come in cases involving police brutality, and their typical posture is the state goes first, and then the department evaluates, has the federal interest here, and there's a federal interest, a severe, an intense one because of the deprivation of civil rights, but has it been vindicated, or in the words of the policy, which is called the Pettit policy, has it been demonstrably unvindicated? So the idea is they'll only come in if the result in the state trial really left the important federal policy unvindicated. Now, what's odd here is they've been charged with murder, but the trial hasn't happened yet. And this is, the department coming in without even knowing the results. And I think at this point, they're pretty well committed. That is, I don't think there's a scenario, would be unusual, in which there's a, the state process totally works. They get very long sentences, and the federal. Well, here's what could happen in that event. Then those charges will not be going away, but they could potentially at that point go to the 5 officers and say, here's your choices. You can either go to trial, we're happy to do it, and we'll add on that life sentence, or if you want to plead guilty, now you're already been convicted in state court to the federal charges as well, we'll have a sort of topping off sentence. It'll be recognized, but not in the same way will we throw the book at you. So that's the way it would work. And there's one case I can think of in the not so distant past where they did it just that way, but it is noteworthy and unusual, not the normal state of affairs, that the department is lodging charges even before they see what the state has done. So that's an indication of just the sort of, how grave and what an assault on federal civil rights interests the department found this to be. So for now, the state court charges have to go first, and they're going to be a while. There's going to be pretrial litigation, and there's these things often come down to experts and 5 defendants. I don't see this trial happening in this year, and then the federal charges will be trailing, but they're not going away. And so if by chance the 5 beat the rap, as it were, they're next day they're transferred to federal custody for very serious charges in the federal system. If they don't, then there'll be some kind of resolution where they got to plead guilty to those charges and take another hit, or else the United States will take them to trial. So really very serious episode, as illustrated among other things that the DOJ is coming in even before the end of the state trial. And one more quick point that I should have said up front: what sets up this whole ability, because for the state and the federal government to try the same charges, because it's the same conduct, so it feels like double jeopardy, and it does feel like double jeopardy. But it's been long since established that when the federal government is trying a case, they're a separate sovereign. It's almost as if France were doing it and the United States. So it's not double jeopardy because no government, either state or federal, has put the defendants twice in jeopardy. It's just the feds do it once and the state does it once. It's a controversial feature, but well established, and definitely here we'll have bite no matter what happens. These guys are going to be confronting serious federal charges, either as convicts in state court, or if they've somehow escaped a conviction in state court, then they're facing very long life sentence in federal court. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.